Conversations with Spirit, where we dive deep into the mystical and enchanting realms of spirituality. I'm your host, spiritual medium Lauri Albert, and together with special guests, we explore a world of spiritual insights and experiences, as well as offer captivating mediumship and oracle card readings. Tune in for enlightening conversations that will uplift your soul and expand your consciousness. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Spirit. Thanks for being here. I'm so happy to have everyone here. I am so excited. Get ready for a fun hour because we like to laugh. We like to giggle. And I have an incredible guest today. Hey, Bex. I have an incredible guest with me tonight. Okay, so basically what I want to say about her is her name is Mary Madsen-Heskin, and she is a holistic therapist, Yusui Reiki master, teacher, and practitioner. She is an intuitive life coach and student shamanic practitioner. She does it all, right? She provides online and in-person integrative services, leaning into the intuitive side of care and blending strategies from psychology, coaching, energy work, and ancient earth and nature practices. Oh my gosh, right? She supports women on their journey of healing, personal growth, and transformation. Now, seriously, you're like, Mary, you're everything I want to be. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lauri. Thank you for having
being here.
You're
This
already
is
probably embodying most of this, though.
You know what, though? I can't even tell you how excited I am to have someone like you who really, really pays attention to empowering women. You know, I think that, and it's not like we don't like our men, of course, but there's something about empowering women that is like, it's going to sound strange, but it's kind of like a buzzword right now. I think it's really important. I mean, do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. You know, my first job out of grad school, I remember I was interviewing, and the person that was interviewing me said, I had no experience yet, right? And he said, I don't think that you'd be a good fit for this job, but I'd really like to interview for my personal assistant. And I was like, I just finished getting my master's. I just got my license. No. And I thought, wow, this is my first step into the working world. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be bumpy for me because I am not going to go lightly through this. So that sort of I feel like my eyes immediately opened when I thought, okay, this is going to be how it is in the workplace. And I primarily worked with men when I worked in substance abuse when I was first out of grad school. And the majority of our clients were men, but all the women that came through all had the same story. And I thought, we've got to do more to support each other and to lift each other up than we were doing. And this is going back, 25 years. But I feel like it's something that's still resonating. And I feel like it's something that we still all need to collectively do, especially as we're sort of moving away, hopefully sooner than later, away from toxic masculinity and really embracing that divine feminine and that sacred masculine. So yeah, I'm all about that.
Wow. And you know what? It's almost like, okay, this might sound really jaded of me, but it's almost like that's sort of like a taboo topic in a sense. Do you think that? Or is that just me? Like, I get worried to talk about stuff like that.
About empowering other women or about
because I worry about alienating anybody, kind of thing. I don't know. Does that even make sense?
It does. Because I think sometimes people feel like if I'm supporting one, that must mean I'm against the other, right? We sort of saw this with some protests a few years back, and that's really not what it is. But it is, if I need to be a voice and an advocate for anybody, I first need to be an advocate for myself. right?
Yeah.
I need to give myself voice. And
Yeah.
for women historically, or at least in my existence, I think we can look at the history books and agree that it's been quite some time, have not had voice. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, it's okay. And the people that get their feathers ruffled, or the people that maybe don't feel passionately about it, it's okay. Like they don't have to listen to what I have to say or come work with me, right?
Sure.
But it's really, the message isn't for them anyways, right? The
Right.
message is for the women that are ready to hear that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it can get a little touchy, but it's all right.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. And you know what? I love the way you just said that, because it can be, you can do different things without alienating anybody. I mean,
Yeah,
really. And you can like
truly.
your truth and not alienate anybody, you know?
Yeah, and I honestly, I feel like it's more about the other person's issue than
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do, right? And
Yeah.
so I feel like, oh, your insecurity showing. So
Yeah. Right.
I
So
sort of
true.
bypass it, yeah, that way. But
Yeah.
I feel like in some, yeah, even with some women though, it can be a little hot button,
Yeah.
that feel like, oh, the F word, feminist, is like so
Yeah.
offensive to some people. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you get into, I mean, you do so much. Like, I mean, seriously, you're a holistic therapist, you're a Reiki master, teacher, and practitioner. I mean, you're an intuitive life coach. Oh my gosh. And then adding the shamanic aspect to that. Oh my gosh, how did you get into all of this? This is like amazing.
aw,
I want to
thanks.
be
Yeah,
you.
I think it's just I think it's just my natural evolution, right? Because when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to go into a helping profession, but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I thought nursing, and I volunteered at a hospital and saw blood, and was like, this is not for me. And then I thought teacher, I like teaching, but I thought that's not the place for me either. And
Yeah.
I kind of morphed my way in. I thought I was going to be in research, actually, research psychology. I didn't think I was going to actually be doing counseling.
Mhm.
But something kind of changed and sort of opened my eyes to, yeah, maybe this is my path. And so I went into counseling just because I felt that calling, like most people do, into their careers at the beginning. I knew that I had a passion for wanting to help people, support people, and I wanted to help people kind of reduce their suffering. Simply. Hopefully, there was a healing aspect of that. And I stumbled into everything else. I feel
Yeah.
like that was my only intentional step
Yeah.
with my career.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what Reiki was when I got my first Reiki session. I think if
Oh my
somebody, yeah, if he would have told me what it was, I probably would have been like, this is crazy. I don't want any part of this voodoo. Uh, and it was such a powerful experience that I thought, I might need to start looking into this. I always wanted to see like research on stuff. I wanted the data on stuff. And this was something that took me completely into my body. And
Mm.
I had experiences that I wasn't able to quite explain. And that
Yeah.
sort of just opened it up for me, that I don't need the data to know that this is something that's pretty powerful. And it
Right.
just sort of evolved from there, with
Wow.
everything else. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So Reiki just kind of fell in your lap, and that was that
Yeah.
like the first thing that happened, and then it just kind of things came.
Yeah.
Reiki was your
y-
first sort of what's the word?
like energy experience,
Energy.
I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a few years prior to that, I had been at Rutgers. I was taking a training at Rutgers, and I had a migraine, and we were there all week, and I was frustrated, and I was just feeling miserable. And my colleague, it was there for alcohol and drug studies, my colleague was telling me that there was men doing acupuncture in the ear to help people with opiate addictions to reduce the
Oh,
cravings. And she
yeah.
said, go see if that can help with pain. And I was like, oh, that's crazy, right? I thought that was acupuncture. I thought was crazy. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And the crowd kind of heard my friend, and they kind of were like, go up there, right? Until we got his attention. And I went on stage, and they did Reiki in my ears. And I was so embarrassed, and I was so frustrated. And lo and behold, like the pain went away. I
Oh,
didn't have the residual pain that I had the next day. I didn't feel hungover from medication.
yeah,
And I started thinking, like, what is this energy stuff? And so I think that sort of opened me up to maybe something else coming into my life. And then a
yeah.
couple of years later, it was Reiki. I was struggling with, I have Hashimoto's, I have a thyroid issue. And I was really just frustrated with like the medication's not doing it. I mean, the doctors would say like, no, you're in, you're where you should be, right? Your levels are
Right,
where they should be. And I'd be like, but I still feel like crap.
right.
And so, it was just me feeling frustrated and venting, and somebody saying, I know a way that can bring you back into your body to do your own healing. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what you mean. I take a pill, right?
Yeah.
No. And so I started going to him. I was feeling really good about Reiki and the possibilities of just being able to go in within myself to do a little bit of healing. And I didn't think I was ever going to, I had no inclination. Well, I didn't think I was ever going to get trained in it. I just thought it was something I could experience.
Yeah.
And I think one day he was kind of like, maybe I should train you. And so I did level 1 and level 2. And I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I'm not going to do level 3. And he was like, totally fine. Good. Don't. About a year, 2 years later, I was like, yeah, I think I want to become a teacher. So it's just kind of funny how things kind of fall into place. And when we're open to the possibility of something good coming into our lives, that's when it appears.
And
So
that's so interesting because that's exactly what I was thinking throughout your story, because you were open, you allowed yourself to be open to a possibility,
yeah,
whatever that looked like, you know?
right.
And
Yeah,
I find that to be so fascinating because and that's such a great lesson for everybody listening right now, you know?
yes, yeah,
Because if we just open our hearts up to what is possible for ourselves, you never know what's going to come your way that could
right.
change your whole life, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, I
Exactly.
love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
thank
So
you.
how many years did it take for you to do all of to get to that point?
Um, that was probably 5 years because I finished the Reiki
Mhm.
master training in 2015.
Mhm.
So yeah, and
Mhm.
that sort of was exciting. That's when I started integrating Reiki into my practice, my so at that point, I'd already left working for agencies. I'd worked for agencies
Yeah.
for like 12 years.
Yeah.
And then I'd opened my private practice because I wanted to um, do it my own way, I guess. So
Yeah, right.
I started integrating it into that, and it felt like there was like a beat within me that was getting louder and stronger
Yeah.
for getting back to earth practices. And it just sort of it started very small, and then I thought step by step I'm going to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
I felt like if people thought Reiki, back when I got trained, I think a lot of people were like, never heard of it. It sounds very strange. And I was that way 5 years prior. So, all right.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, oh man, I'm not going to tell people that I get messages from animals or that, I, I want to know about, the ways of the directions and really honoring earth. And so I
Yeah.
thought that'll take some time. That'll take some time before I come out of that one.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to say hello to Debbie and Kelsey that are on Facebook. So we are connected, you guys. We are connected to two different Facebooks, two different YouTubes, and
Wow.
Instagram. So this
Holy
is
cow.
like kind of
Busy.
interesting, you know? And then the cool thing is you all can watch the replay later if you miss
Very
something or
nice.
you gotta go. So I love that, you know. Um, so I really wanted to ask you because this is kind of like I don't want to say the latest thing, but to me, um, what I love about one of your little titles, because I've got all these little titles, and it's like there's so many things that we do, and it's hard to like get it. There's not one word that describes it all, right? So
Right,
I love
exactly.
that. But one of the things you talk about, you're an intuitive life coach, and I I love that. I do empowerment coaching, which I termed, and
I love it.
it's like spiritual life coaching,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but it's in different realm. But so intuitive life coaching, tell us about that and how you got involved in that, because I really think a lot of people would really benefit from that, because it seems like and you tell me if I'm wrong. I'm totally open to being wrong, right? But it seems like it's like another layer to life coaching.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. I mean, hopefully nobody from the insurance industry is listening to this, because I will say I feel really restricted by what I can do with my
Mhm.
license and what the insurance will provide coverage for.
Right.
And I can't do just a Reiki session, even though that's what a client might be needing. I can't just sit
Mhm.
and meditate with them for an
Mhm.
hour, even though that might be what they're needing. I can't walk in nature with them, even though
Mhm.
that might be what they're needing. And so I
Right.
thought, how can I kind of move around this and be able to integrate everything that I do into one thing? And I really didn't like the word or the phrase, I guess, life coach. I just felt like, oh, it just misses the mark a little bit. And so I thought, what can I put out there that will sort of, um, I don't know, alert people? Because I had played around with maybe doing spiritual life coaching, and I had got a bunch of people that were wanting to go on like a religious quest or
Oh,
something, and I was like, oh, that's not me.
yeah.
That's not my thing.
Right.
That's
Right.
great if that's what you want, but that's not really me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I like that. The intuitive part sort of let people know that we would be probably talking more about, um, I hate to say woo, but more of the woo part of the life coaching, right? Like, I
Right.
don't even
Yeah.
know how to describe it. But one
Yeah.
of the things with all the time that I've worked with women, and this is something that I feel is part of that empowerment, to heal and to grow and to transform, is to not only to tap into my intuition when I'm working with a client, but teach them how to tap into their intuition so
Mm.
they're making the best choices for themselves. So
Yeah.
they really feel empowered again to make those choices that really open up their world for them.
Yeah.
So it's a blending of everything that I do. It's all the different strategies and tools that I've learned, the stuff that I use in my own personal life. Um, but it has that intuitive side. So maybe we'll pull a card if we're not, sure what the next step is, and we'll talk about the
Mhm.
card. Or
Mhm.
maybe I'll have them really go within and tap into what is their body telling them, is this the right
Yeah.
choice or not, right?
Yeah.
So that's the piece that I sort of added. That if I could get rid of life, I don't think you can. Intuitive code, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I'm still playing
Yeah.
around with the wording because I haven't quite gotten it yet.
Well, because it feels like I mean, this might be like rather ignorant of me, but it seems like it's a brand new type of coaching. I mean,
I
it
would
seems
say
brand
so.
new. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it doesn't fit in any of the little boxes, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And that's been my struggle, is I'm not really sure where I fit.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure. And so I have seen other people do intuitive life coaching or intuitive guidance.
Mhm.
I see a lot. I think I have that on a couple of my things too. And it's like playing around with those words that just
Yeah.
feel like it encompasses it. I haven't quite
Yeah.
found it yet, but I do feel like I'm seeing it more, which is kind of exciting to
Yeah.
see that other
Yeah.
people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have okay, so you guys, just so you all know, we're going to take some questions in a few minutes, but you can always type them in. I believe I will see them. I'm not sure I will see them on Instagram. Hi, Cheller. Cheller's online. Hi,
Oh, hi, Taylor.
and we've got a whole bunch of people. We've got Jamie, we've got and Allie, we've got a whole bunch of people on Instagram. So that's kind of cool. I'm not sure if I'm going to see your questions on Instagram, but you can try to type it in. Um, and then, yeah, so if you have any questions, you can type it in. Okay, so that being said, um, what are some ways, like one of the things that you talk about in your bios, you talk about like personal growth and transformation, and kind of, and you mentioned a minute ago to like help people, you like to help people, which I love to do too, right? Help people find that strength from within and utilize it, for their
Yeah.
lives, right?
Yeah.
So is there any sort of helpful hints that you can give to people that might help them start their own personal we can call it spiritual journey, or their own journey of self-discovery? Like, what
Yeah.
is a way that people can get started in that?
Yeah, I think it's really, I know people get frustrated when I'm like, go back to the basics. But I
Yeah.
think that it's so important just to have a foundation of like, where can you go back to? And I think when we, for me at least, I feel like when I started doing more consistent meditation, I
Mm.
was able to kind of quiet the fear thoughts, the negativity, the judgment, the criticism, and I was able to tune a little bit deeper into my inner voice. And I really didn't understand. I was raised a totally different way with a religion that was basically like, you should not be
Yeah.
tapping directly into spirit. You should be, going through a man to get up there. But I think that really helped me. And so if people can start a practice of meditation, and even if they're
Yeah.
like, I can't sit still, or I can't, quiet my mind, go for a walk in nature. Like that's really
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be like hours of meditation. It can be like 3 to 5 minutes of meditation.
Yeah.
And then just
I
build
tell
on it
people that
as you
all
can.
the time. I love
Yes.
that.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so important. And it's not like I started out. So I started out just doing it very sporadically. And
Mm.
then actually back in 2010ish, I think I started doing it a little bit more consistently.
Mm.
And then I was like, I want to get serious. I actually wanted to get trained in meditation. So I went and saw a meditation instructor for a while. And she really got me into the habit of like 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. That
Mhm.
is, you have to build to that. Believe me, you
Yeah.
have to build to that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
whatever you can start with. But I think finding the time to have quiet. So even if it's not meditation, having maybe a practice of like journaling, writing stuff down, things that
Mhm.
you noticed,
Yeah.
ideas that kind of pop into your head that you're like, I don't even know where that came from. Write that down,
Yeah.
because that's either a message from your inner knowing, or, right, you would say Lori spirit, right? You're
Yeah.
getting a message somehow.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those are really good practices to start,
Mhm.
because you have to start building. If you don't have trust within, you have to start building that. And I think, we have to get through whatever wonkiness we have with like worth, value, unconditional love. We have to make sure it's a level playing field for us, that we
Yeah.
believe those things to be true. We can trust ourselves, that we're safe with ourselves. And then we can start, building on that. I think that's when the meditation helps. That's when the journaling helps.
Yeah.
And just taking note. The other thing, and I always tell people this, and they're like, what? Um, I'll give you two other things that I think are helpful. Paying attention to your dreams, either having a dream journal or just sort of noting what comes up for you, because messages come through obviously during your dream time.
Mm.
Your brain doesn't shut down. So
Yeah.
it's trying
Yeah.
to work through all of the troubles, all the struggles you're having during your waking hours. So writing those things down, I think, is really helpful. And for me, noticing the animals that come, noticing whatever happens outside, if you're connected to nature, those messages that come through just for you.
Yeah.
So even if you're like, I don't know, I keep seeing mallards, well, go look, go get a book and see, what does mallard mean? Why is a mallard showing up for me now? What is that message I need to know? And the
Yeah.
more you practice that, it's like anything, right? You just kind of flex that muscle and it gets stronger.
Yeah.
So those are, I mean, just basic stuff. Yeah.
That's so amazing that I want to ask you a question about that. We have a
Yes.
question. Well, actually, we don't have
Oh,
a question, but this is I don't know how to pronounce a solus cone. Hey, Mary and Lori, nice to see both of you. You love Mary, and you discovered her. It's Melinda. Oh, it's Melinda. Do you know Melinda?
oh, well,
Okay.
yes. Hello. Hi
I'm
again.
sorry. I was trying to read it because it's really small, because I have my computer and it's like I gotta have see all the boxes and stuff. And then we've got Jeremiah and we've got Blue Eyes. Yay. So thanks for being here, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
So that's so cool. Thank you for coming, Melinda. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I botched
Yes.
that a minute ago. No.
Yes.
So what was my question? Oh, how did you like start incorporating animals into your, hey, Barbara's here. Hi, Barbara. How did you start incorporating animals into your practice? Like, how did that come about? Because like you mentioned it before and I was like, oh, that is so cool. So yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was always like most kids, right? We're drawn to animals.
Yeah.
And I felt like and I had no data to back it up.
Yeah, right.
But I felt like the animals were either there for messages or were telling me something or were keeping me company. It
Aw,
felt like there was some sort of connection that I couldn't maybe necessarily hear with my ears or,
you're Snow White.
what's that?
You're Snow White.
No, no, because I don't think I could communicate to them. But it sort of faded until I went. That was like me as a little kid. I went to college and I met this girl, and we were talking about her family was. I'm not going to remember. I think Cree, I want to say. I can't
Oh,
remember. But she was from her family had indigenous lineage, and we were talking about totems, animal totems.
okay.
And she said, "What are your animal totems?" What? I don't know. And she's like, "Well, what animal do you see a lot?" And at that time, I was 6 hours away from home, and I would drive down, and it was sort of boring. It was a boring drive. And I would see a lot of red-tailed hawks. And I
Oh,
said, and she said, "What do you think when you see them?" And I said, "Oh, I
mm,
feel safe. I feel safe when I see them. I feel like they're watching me." Because, they're on like posts or they're on like
yeah.
light poles or something. And she
Uh-huh.
was like, "Yeah, they're probably on your totem." And so I was like, "Oh,
Mm,
interesting." And so starting from college, I would see like what animals kind of were coming up for me. And I sort of put a pause in that until we moved down to this area about 8 years ago when I was just looking out my back window and I saw a bird that I'd never seen before.
oh,
So I got a book out and I was like, "What is this? Why is he here?"
yeah.
And it just sort of spurred like my interest in animals again and paying attention to when they came into my life.
Mhm.
And it was sort of just another way of tapping into intuition. It was another way of feeling connected, obviously, to nature. It was another way of just feeling like there's more there's more than what I'm just seeing. There's more than what I'm just able to hear. When I go back to that place of feeling, what do I feel?
Yeah.
There's so many more messages that come through. And so that's kind of where it started. And I just can't tell you how many animals just cross my path or come into my life.
Mhm.
When I was starting the shamanic studenting. I don't even know what the word is when I was learning about
Studying? I
this.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Because we were doing, right? We were being, we were becoming. I was telling the woman that I was working with, my mentor, that we have a river. It's probably a couple miles away from our house, and there's eagles that are there all the time, all
Oh,
year round.
that's beautiful.
And yeah, and so I would see them at work where my office was, and I would see them on vacation, and I would see them no matter where I went, there would be the eagles. And she and I were talking about like how do we know when it's that next step to step further into the shamanic practitioner. And I was like, I don't know. And so I told her I went to my backyard and I said, if this is what I meant to do, if this is the next step for me, I want to see a sign. Show me the sign that this is the right thing for me to do. And I
Uh-huh.
kid you not, my husband was like, "Is that an eagle in our backyard?" So the eagle had flown from the river all the way out to our house. And
Oh,
I mean, obviously not to our house, but,
yeah,
flying where we could see him.
yeah.
And then he just disappeared. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, well, if
So,
you didn't think that was a sign, I mean, like, yeah.
yeah.
But that's what I love about you. You're so open, I mean, you're
Oh,
open to all the ideas of whatever it could be, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So I wanna know if anybody wants to type in the chat, what animals do you guys see? I
Yeah.
would love to see that. I would love to see that. You know what's been happening to us in our backyard is that um hummingbirds. Now I know that hummingbirds
Oh,
are
I
like
love that.
everywhere and they're always all over the place, but a couple of years ago, and my husband's not into not into this whole stuff that I do, right? He was sitting outside and he was just sitting there by himself, I guess, or whatever. And all of a sudden, this baby hummingbird lands right on top of him.
Oh, I love that.
Gosh. And I was like, no way. And so my daughter and I, we creep outside and we're watching it. And I'm just like, that, like, to me, like, that was a huge sign. Like, when was the last time a
Yes.
hummingbird don't land on you? You know,
Right.
they
Exactly.
don't.
Yeah. No,
I'm
they
just like,
don't.
oh my God, oh my God. And he was like, oh, but it's just so sweet. And he started petting him.
Oh, I
I'm
love
like, oh
that.
my God,
That's
how are you like
awesome.
petting who pets a hummingbird? Like,
Yeah, that's
seriously.
fabulous. Oh my
So
gosh, I love that.
so I
I
like
love
to
that.
say I love to say that he's connected. He just doesn't acknowledge it yet.
He is. He definitely is. Well, to be with you, he has to be, I think,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to some degree
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so High Hill, so I'm assuming it's Hillary, sees hawks and eagles.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Beck said she sees squirrels. She has a squirrel
Squirrels.
tattoo.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And knowing I love that when people see a lot of things over and over again. I mean, hawk and eagle, they're both sort of like that east energy, time to soar, time to go to a higher perspective, to kind of see what else we're just not seeing with our little tunnel vision or whatever.
Right.
Squirrel, I love. It's like being playful. It's taking time. Well, it's taking time to do your chores and stuff as well, but
Yeah,
I think that's really neat. And knowing that people will have, I like animals because people have their own personal connections to them,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I didn't know, I learned from one of our friends at Evolve Me. I heard that
Yay.
there was, when there's an animal that we're fearful of,
Oh,
it's somebody in our shadow. It's something in our shadow. And it's really interesting because I was having dreams about spiders, and he was, I was telling him, we were having this conversation, and he was saying, so what did you learn from that? And I did. It was all about balance. It was all about that safety and that balance, and I would catch myself. So I don't know, do you have any animals that are like off in
I
your
do.
shadow?
And I'm going to tell you mine in just one second. But Cheller
Okay.
said he sees white butterflies.
Oh my gosh, I've
Ooh,
never seen
that's
a
got to
white
be kind
butterfly.
of rare. Don't you think that's
That
rare?
has to be. Yes, and Cheller, hopefully this white is so powerful, right? It's so symbolic. I think every like culture probably has something about white, but the butterfly is transformation, right? That's so
Yeah, I
cool.
think so. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And then Barbara says, I will miss the ghost animals in my dad's backyard. So that's kind of
Ghost
cool
animals.
too. And then I can't pronounce what that person's name is, but she sees seagulls and crows.
Oh,
That's kind of
interesting.
fun too.
That
That's actually,
is.
and then we've got Kelsey saying, I love seeing eagles and hawks. It gives me strength,
Mm,
but turkey
yes.
vultures are not a good vibe.
They are a very good vibe. They are my people. I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, I will say, so I know a lot of times people feel like so it is shadow. And I'm like
Mhm.
totally good with that because I'm like, that's what
Yeah.
I work in all the time with clients in counseling is shadow side.
Yeah.
But it is a good thing because they keep the ecosystem balanced and
Yeah.
healthy. And if you think about that, if we are sending love and compassion to our shadow side,
Mhm.
it's no longer scary. It's no longer toxic. It's no longer going to get E. coli into a coyote or something. I don't know what the I don't know what the
Yeah.
bacteria would be, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
So when you think about not a good vibe, what does that mean, right? Is
Yeah.
there something that's scary to look at, in the
Yeah.
shadow? I don't know.
So just to follow back up, Cheller
Yeah.
said it's her sister that she never
Oh,
met. She died before she was born. So
oh,
isn't that cool?
that's
I mean, it's
amazing.
not cool, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
right.
You see the
Yes.
white butterfly, kind of thing. So it's kind of neat. Okay. And then Debbie says, all of the neighborhood cats come to my front porch and backyard to hang out. Most have
Oh,
homes, um, but will still close to sleep I think that was wrong, but okay. For a few nights and sometimes more permanently, my good friend neighbor's cat seems to have taken up residence here. That's hilarious. That was so cute. Debbie,
nothing
that's
wrong with
adorable.
nothing wrong with being a cat lady. And
Yeah.
that's independence, so that's a good thing.
And then Debbie finished and said, "Oh, and crows too. I say hello to them whenever I see them and try to carry peanuts in the car."
Oh, I love that.
And then Beck says, "Turkey vultures are the cleaners. They are also pretty chill. I have seen a group give space when a seagull wants to eat a fish on the beach."
Aw.
Yikes. Yeah. Oh, choose is what she meant. Okay, got it. Okay, so let me tell you my biggest fear. And I literally had a dream last night because I watched a movie yesterday and there were snakes.
Uh-huh.
I am petrified of snakes. Petrified. Like, I am not scared of any. I'm not scared of dying, right? It's so stupid because I'm not scared of dying. I'm not scared of much. But snakes, I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is. It petrifies me.
And that, I'm like, oh, off camera, we need to talk. Because the funny thing is, like, Kundalini energy, snake, transformation, snake, right?
Something really? Now that's interesting because I am, I'm attuned Kundalini Reiki. So transformation. Oh, thanks, Debbie. Debbie puts pictures of a snake up. Thanks so much there. Look at that.
Oh, geez.
Now I'm going to get all these messages.
Yes, you're going to get all sorts of mail too, I'm sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting though. And what is that message there, right? Because I really had to think about, like, what is me and spider? And the funny, I mean, it's not haha funny. You do not have to have a pet snake. But the funny thing is, I thought, okay, I'm going to try to befriend this garden spider that was gigantic and not in my garden. And I thought every day I'll say hi to her. Every day I'll just say hi to her.
Okay.
And I actually felt less anxious and with the spider. So I was doing my own form of desensitization to that. But it was funny. It was so funny because I was starting like, oh, what else? I have a very, like, I need to consume information. So I'm like, oh, I wonder how long they live. I wonder how many babies they have. I wonder this. I wonder that, right? And so I sort of went down a little rabbit hole with that. But it was really interesting because I really had to think about what was that, right? What was the thing that I was really most afraid of? And obviously that spider's not going to kill me, but some snakes will, right? But it's like interesting to see, like, where is that energy, right? Where is that in my shadow, or what does that represent for me? Because that's one that, to me, I mean, that's like South energy. That's really important energy. So that's interesting.
It is interesting. And then Cheller says scorpions give her panic attacks.
I would have one if I saw one in real life.
And then she says, my husband is a Scorpio. Oh.
That's funny.
That is hilarious. Oh my gosh. And
that just shows you the universe has a good sense of humor, right? I mean,
exactly. So while you were talking about the spider and how you would say hello to it, and I was imagining myself like, okay, what could I do to, like, get over my fear of snakes? Okay, I could go and hold a snake. I don't know if you saw me shiver. I just don't think I could do that.
I wouldn't recommend that. I honestly wouldn't. but you can think about the energy of it, right? You can think about the energy. And when you uncoil your Kundalini, how do you imagine it? Do you not imagine it as a snake uncoiling?
No.
Really?
I don't work too much with it anymore.
Okay.
I used to. Okay. But what I would just do is I would, it didn't involve an animal at all, actually. I would just imagine it rising and, like, the white. I just, it's about white stuff. Yeah. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that was how I used to do that. But, interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, what are you going to do? Does anybody have any questions for Mary? My guest tonight, you guys, is holistic therapist, Usui Reiki master practitioner, teacher, intuitive life coach, and student shamanic practitioner. Her name is Mary Madsen-Heskin. So I'm super excited. So if anybody has any questions for her, please let us know, and we will do that. So I do have a question for you. Aside from like meditation, is there anything sort of a practical, actually, you know what? I will save my question. Hold on, because Hillary is saying, can you please explain the directions you were mentioning, east, south,
Oh,
energy, all of that kind of stuff? And you know what?
oh,
That's actually an interesting question, because that's relating to the shamanic.
it is.
So yeah,
Sorry. Yes,
great.
it
I'll save my
is.
question for later.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so depending on when you think, well, I don't know if you think of a medicine wheel, but if you did, it's sort of broken into four. It's like four different directions, right? And we think about like the cardinal directions that we all know. And I think in my world growing up, we started at north, east, south, and west, right?
Yeah.
And that's not how that's not
Yeah.
how, now not everyone does it the same way. But if you want to think about it, I know everybody has their own like spin on it, their own take, their own stories, their own traditions. So this is not the end all be all. This, if somebody is trained in a different way, they may say, no, that's not mine. But the way that I was trained is the East is sort of well, let's not start there. We'll start in the South. So if you think about the two animals that are in the South, for me, at least the way that I was trained, again, there's can be multiple ways. Are snake, which we just talked about, and also deer, which is fabulous. I can't turn, oh, I could turn my camera on, but deer is the actual, so stag is the energy of my business. And I'm working with doe energy right now because, yeah.
Oh,
So when you think about the freshness, the newness, what you want to create, what you want to change, what you want to transform, it's sort of a vulnerable place for you. But there's kind of that hope of learning and growing and moving, right? And then you can kind of move up to, so this is the part that everybody's like, ooh, no, scary, I don't want to, is west, shadow. So it could be jaguar, panther. For, I don't know what other people have there. Those are just the ones that I usually work with. I guess you could have vulture there as well. Because I actually have, well, it's a whole nother story, but vulture can be there too. So this is really like our unconscious, our shadow side, like I said, things that we're hoping to, hopefully we're going to make peace with them. Hopefully we're going to find love and compassion for that side of ourselves. It's when people talk about going into their shadow side, right? You're going into that pain place. You're seeing and witnessing the pain. Sometimes that can be a stuck place. You could be in that for a while. Sometimes you move through it. Sometimes it's just like, I'm visiting. I'm just here for a moment, right? And then I move on. And then if you think about, if we move through that, if we reconcile whatever that conflict was, whatever that pain was, if we're able to reconcile that, we kind of move up to the north. And this can be hummingbird. And this is also buffalo. Yeah. And this is actually a couple different things, but this can be it's basically death and rebirth, right? And so you have that ending, you have that completion, and then you get to tap into abundance, basically. And then east is, for me, it's hawk and eagle, and it can also be condor, I think, for some people.
oh,
This is where we kind of take off and fly. This is giving us higher perspective.
oh,
This is
oh, I
joy.
like
This is
that.
spiritual growth. This is a lot of great things. So you can sort of see moving through that within your life. You can see little periods of time where you go through that. And so thinking about like where people are at, when I was in school, we talked a lot about developmental milestones, where people were at, if they had mastered something, if they hadn't, if they were stuck somewhere. And so this is just another way, another template of looking at where people are at and what they need to do to move through that. And so it's interesting. I know a lot of people that work with archangels. Archangels have directions as well. So besides those four directions, we also obviously have below us, we have Mother Earth, and then we have the sky, we have grandfather sun and grandmother moon, and then, the universe, all it is or whatever. But then also with the archangels, they have the directions as well. And then they have, earth and then universe as well. So a lot of different, I don't know what you want to call that, uh, a lot of different samenesses. I don't know what the word would be. There's a lot of
Similarities,
similarities
yeah,
and
yeah.
connections, yeah,
Right.
between, thoughts. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
That's really fascinating. And and I'm going to say this wrong, but that's part of the shamanistic culture teachings. Is that?
Yeah, the earth. Yeah. So I just say like, or the earth base, but yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Okay.
it kind of
Yeah.
depends if it's North American or South American. I feel like they have different ones. And then
Yeah.
within that, depending on someone's lineage, I don't have lineage, but depending on someone's lineage, they might work
Mhm.
in different ways. They might not start in the South. They might start, wherever.
Yeah.
Well, East would be the other one, but
East.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, interesting. I have a medicine wheel in my backyard. I have
Very
a, I
nice.
put the, cause there's a compass on our iPhones, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yes.
I put a big old rock right in the center, and then I figured out exactly where east was. And you always have to enter the circle at the east. I think that's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's right. And so I have a big rock, in the east, and then south. And it's cool. It's
It
really,
is.
really cool. And um, can't go out there right now because it's raining.
Oh,
We actually are getting rain in Southern California, so I can't be doing that, right? So, Scheller has a question. Mary, how
sure.
can we better lean into the quiet times from spirit, times of shedding? How can we better lean into that? That's a
Yeah.
great question, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I feel like so many of us are at that point, and not to discount what men, I'm sure you're going through it as well. But I feel like I'm hearing it more from women that they're
Mm,
sort of going through this point where they're feeling almost stuck. They're feeling like they're not sure how to break through.
mhm.
And I'm going to say something and you're going to be like, I don't know what you're saying. You've got to send yourself love and compassion. You've got
Yeah,
to meet yourself where you're at.
yeah,
So, if you want to think about practical steps, it's self care.
yeah.
So, and I know sometimes when I tell people, like, you have to get into a practice of self care, you have to have a consistent routine for self care. I get a lot of like, oh, I am going to get my nails done. That's not what I mean. I don't mean going to get a fancy coffee, although those could be things, right? Those
Right.
definitely could be things. But it's like, creating a morning ritual for yourself so you're
Yeah,
ready to start the day where you feel really grounded, ending your day where you can release everything, all the stresses, all the worries, all the fears, so you can have a restful night of sleep.
yeah,
Having moments of quiet, having moments where you're giving yourself affirming thoughts, or you're really supporting whatever your need is. You're taking time to acknowledge what your needs are and are able to verbalize them. I know sometimes we can't verbalize them to people that don't want to hear, don't want to support, don't want to help. And so finding those safe people, right? Finding those people that are going to be there for you and will listen to what you have to say or need to say, right? I want those people in your life to be the people that see you and witness you right where you're at. And I think that is kind of like the simple practices. There's so many different strategies for self-care, but it really comes back to like, I've got to go back to the basics. And one of them is love and compassion for yourself, self-care,
mhm,
self-kindness.
mhm.
And when we just kind of pause everything else, we just take a step back from the pushing or the forcing of like, I can't get that message from spirit, or my intuition's offline, or whatever it is, or I can't manifest that thing, right? Stop pushing. Take a
Yeah,
step back and just
yeah,
go within and just take care of yourself. Just nurture yourself. And this is if you're in, well, Cheller is, but anybody that's, here from the Northern Hemisphere, we are in winter right now. This is our
yeah.
time to nurture and nourish ourselves. So when it feels like, I always say, like, I tap a microphone, is this thing on, right? Because it feels like you're disconnected sometimes. We get
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
Or we pull a card and we're like, what does that even mean? Like,
yeah.
just take a break, move away from it, and just go back to yourself. So, for practical, I would say maybe self care. I don't know. Do you have anything else, Lori, that you think is helpful?
You know what? I loved what you said about, loving yourself.
Yeah.
because we aren't conditioned. This is just my opinion, but we aren't conditioned to love ourselves. We're conditioned to, put everybody else before us, especially
Yeah.
as women. I hate to say it, but,
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
conditioned to care about making sure everybody else's needs are taken care of except for our own.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so when you say love yourself, loving yourself might mean saying no.
Yes.
Loving yourself could mean like, instead of going to that party that everybody is in your brother is going to, saying, no, it's all good. I'm going to like do my own thing tonight. I mean, it could be that. It could be something
Mhm.
completely different, but the self-love is so important. And it sounds, it's okay to care about yourself first. It's okay to do that. And it's
It
just
is.
my theory of it.
Totally.
We can't love other people, and um we can't help other people, especially light workers, right? We can't help other people if we're not going to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
that's just who I believe, that's just how I believe. So Barbara
Truly.
wrote, I miss the morning meditation with you. I used to do morning
Oh.
meditations every weekday morning. Oh my God. I don't know how I got up that early, but morning meditations at like 7 a.m. on Insight Timer.
Oh, wow. That's
Like,
early. Yep.
and I did it all through COVID. And it's so funny because talking about intuition and knowing, right? I
Mhm.
knew I was supposed to stop. Like I got to myself, and this is where spirit will kick you in the butt if you don't listen, right?
Yes.
So I would get up and I would force myself to get up. And then this is towards the end, obviously. And I would force myself to get up and go in here and do the live. And they just didn't feel authentic. I hate to say
Mhm.
it like that, but it didn't feel authentic anymore. And so finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop doing this because it's not, if it's not authentic to me, it's not going to be taken authentic for
Yes.
anybody else,
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, and you know what? I got to say, part of that is that whole self-care. I
Yes.
knew I needed to get more sleep, 'cause
Yes.
I was having to get up at like 6 in
Yeah.
the morning. Oh my God. Cause you can't go live. You can't go live without having a cup of coffee or something first, right? So anyway,
No.
that was my thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my question to you. So, we were talking before about the whole snake thing, and I'm not even going to say the word anymore, right? Because it wigs me out, right? So, it's part of that shadow self. How would you suggest that someone get in touch with a shadow side? And it's so interesting that the shadow selves keep coming up lately, in like not
Mm.
just for me, but for so many people.
Mhm.
It's so fascinating, you
This
know?
so again, winter, this is the
Right.
time for us to go back, yeah, to kind of reconcile that stuff.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it probably is coming up for a lot of people. It definitely has come up for a lot of our new moons and our full moons where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm getting that message
Right.
again and again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say to work with a practitioner,
Mm.
because sometimes if we're opening up a can of worms,
Yeah.
if we're trying to explore
Yeah.
something that feels too scary, so
Yeah.
we all have little T's in our life, little traumas, and then we have big T traumas. And
Mhm.
if our big T traumas are in shadow, we don't want to be able to work with that all by ourselves
Yeah.
because we put it over there because we couldn't deal with it. We didn't want to deal with it. We had to stuff it away. And
Yeah.
so if you can bring it to somebody that can help you work through that, either somebody like a therapist that's trained trauma informed therapist, somebody that if they are like a shaman or maybe a practitioner who works with shadow,
Mm.
I wouldn't probably just go to anybody that you find and say like, oh, they're an energy worker, or I would want to make sure that they know about trauma, because shadow usually is trauma. Like I said, it's either a little T's or a big T's that are residing there,
Yeah.
or a combination of them both.
Yeah.
And they can be stuff that has been there for a while for us,
Right.
right? It can be other stuff that crops up in our life, but it can be stuff that's been there for a little bit. So I always encourage people to work with a practitioner, so you can explore that safely. And as things come up, as things are processed, in that moment, you can get a strategy. In that moment, you can find, how do I heal this, or how do I manage this in the rest of my, waking hours or whatever. I think that's so important. I worked with a shaman that was like his thing, his shtick, so to speak. And I loved it because I felt really confident that I could refer my clients to him as well, where he would really hold that safe container for them, and could really give them some strategies of like, this is what you can do going forward. And obviously it's been my work for a long time with therapy. And so, talking to a therapist about it, even if they don't understand shadow, well, if they're Jungian analysts, they will, because that's all Carl Jung. But, they'll be able to work with somebody and help them through that. If you feel like it's probably more of my little T's than my big T traumas, then that's something that you can probably, process yourself as well. But, just to err on the side of caution, I always tell people
for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it seems to me that like maybe meditation could, like setting an intention for me, for like the smaller situations, it's like maybe setting an intention and then meditating on it.
Yeah, if it's if you feel like it's not one of the big
right. I mean, traumas. If it's like something big and dramatic, that would be, but
if it's something, I mean, here's a great example, right? And I already told Lauri about this. So she's gonna be like, yeah, I just heard this. I had pulled this card yesterday for a meditation that I was gonna do, and I just pulled it again today. Yeah, it was yesterday. I had to think about that. Well, that Sunday was yesterday, right? And it's all about reclaiming your personal power. And if it's something like this, where it feels like I've been compromising myself in ways that doesn't make me feel comfortable, or communication, I haven't been able to speak something, I haven't been able to use my voice, or, speak my truth, or if it feels like, there's something that I've been working on, I want to be brave, or I want to try something new, like that sort of thing. That is definitely something that you can set an intention on, meditate on, journal on, see what shows up in your life for support. I think one of the things that I always forget about, resist, is that we always are co-creating, right? And so we always have support of whoever is available, whoever our guides, our guardians, whoever. So I think, setting that intention, you can meditate, you can create something around that for yourself in whatever way works, right? You can release that to the universe. If you can safely burn stuff, you can write it down, burn it, and throw it away, right? You can do a variety of different things. But the little ones that aren't that little, right? I would say, if you feel like you're wanting to reclaim your power, it's probably still something that feels a little big.
Yeah. I mean, because to be honest with you, this is going to sound crazy. Maybe I'm just not ready to deal with it yet, but I don't care that I'm like petrified of snakes. Like it doesn't, like, I don't care. Like, it's not something I want to work on because I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, in a perfect world, I will never see a snake again, So, I mean, it's, unless the movie I was watching yesterday, they were in Australia.
There you go.
The reason why, and I know exactly why I dreamt about it, because the guy was, he pulled the sleeping bag back. He pulled the sleeping bag back because they were camping outside and there was a snake. And I was like, oh God. That was my big thing. But
that planted the seed.
Know.
There's nothing that says that you have to work through all of shadow all the time. Right. Sure. And again, kind of trusting your intuition and trusting your inner knowing of like, this isn't something that I feel like is holding me back in my life, so I don't have to work through it. But the other stuff, that we have, especially this reclaiming personal power, right? That stuff, we probably do want to work on. Choice. You
So
always have choice.
yeah, that's true. We do have choices, and you
Mhm.
can pick and choose what is important to you at any given time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mary, how can
Yes.
people find you? And do you have
Well,
any events coming up? Tell us if you have anything
I
coming up that you want to
do.
tell people.
Yeah, I do. So I've been doing this Soul Journey membership, and I moved it to Insight Timer. So I do have two free live events coming up on Insight Timer Tuesday, whatever this next Tuesday. Oh, tomorrow.
It's
Tomorrow is one,
wow.
being, manifesting, and becoming, and then the next Tuesday is going to be planting your seed for the next season, which is spring. You can find me under my name on Insight Timer. And then also my website is it's long, riversjourneywellness.com, and everything is there. So if you want just a little bit of information, you want some resources, you want to meet with me, whatever you want to do, that's where you go. Rivers Journey Wellness. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and they're all Rivers Journey Wellness, except for
Rivers
Facebook
Journey
is,
Wellness.
yeah.
See, it's okay if they're long, if
Yeah.
it's all spelled out the right way.
Yeah,
You know?
it's no goofy spellings, or at
Yeah,
least I
exactly,
don't think so.
so I
Yeah.
love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mary, this hour just, like, totally flew
Flew
by. I
by.
mean,
I know.
you are such a bright light. I'm, like,
Aw, thanks.
I'm so honored that you would stay up late and talk to me. 'Cause you
For
guys,
you, I would.
it's, like, late where she is.
Sadly, in my old age, 9 o'clock my time is a nice time to be in pajamas and in bed.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking the time,
Oh,
because I
absolutely.
really wanted you on because you do so many different things and
Oh,
you have so many different tools that you can work with and so much information for
thank you.
to give to the rest of us. So I really appreciate you coming and being here with us. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. And
Absolutely. Thank
thank
you for
you
having me.
everybody for being here. Next week, my special guest will be intuitive medium. I forget what she calls herself, a psychic medium, Karen Gabler. So she's going to be on with me next week. So join in again. And this is going to be like, I'm so honored to have you here with me tonight, Mary. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And everybody have a beautiful evening and namaste. And we'll see you next week.